respond. I have something I want to say before we start.
Okay.
Hey!
Alright.
Is everybody ready?
For what?
We're going to tell stories, but I have something I want to say to everybody that is here. If you're on this side of the table and you're old, you already know this. But if you're on that side of the table, you need to be told this. This family is your family. This family has always been about people and not about things. And we've always gathered together in all kinds of times to take care of each other and to be there for each other. I never experienced this more than when I had cancer. And you all took care of me. Everybody that texted or did anything was taking care of me. And I don't care if you're blood, that doesn't matter to me at all. What matters to me is that you show up when we get together. And we have fun. And we act crazy. But at the very basis of everything is the love that we have for one another. And I was showed that this afternoon when you helped me get out of the car and get to the road, get to the place to sit down. He's not my blood, but he's my brother. That's what I want you to know. Regardless of what has ever happened in your life, the temples will always be there for you. And that's what these stories are about, and that's what this time is about. So let's be together and laugh a little. Be a good thing, wouldn't it? We've had a hard year.
Yep. Yeah, that's the purpose. Yeah. We just wanted to make sure that, I mean, this was kind of started on Ab and Jeannie's family. And as we add more people to the family and as young people come into the family and we're born, we don't want to lose the stories. So we thought it might be nice to create an opportunity where we could all just be reminded of the stories and hold on to them. So I'm just going to ask questions, kind of throw it out there. Anybody who wants can share, whatever. If you don't want to talk, that's okay. You don't have to. But we wanted to give everybody a chance.
They all talk.
All right. So the first
Especially
thing
you've got to talk.
Start with Wanda.
Well, I'm just going to throw it out and then whoever
Okay.
has it. Because you might have something for one question but not another. So I know that there was a couple different places Ab and Jeannie lived, right, throughout the years. So when you think of home, as you grew up together as siblings, which house or place comes to mind when you think of home?
Car roller.
So tell us about that. What was it? Describe that place.
We lived in a 3-room house out there, right across from Kenny Davidson. And we didn't all have beds. We had our own bed. We had to get in, and 3 of us to a bed.
How many were there of you all together at that time?
Becky was born there.
Yeah, I was going to tell. I think there was 7. Let's see, Denny. Yeah, Denny wasn't he? Because the truck, Dad's brick truck, rolled off of the hill and down, and it just barely missed the bedroom where Denny was laying.
Ran
Oh,
into
wow.
the house?
Huh?
The truck ran into the house?
It didn't hit it. It just barely missed it. And Dad always said, if you just barely miss something, you ain't gonna hit it. And Becky Faye, I was there, old enough. She was born at home. It was very hot. Becky, Dad went down and he didn't believe in buying anything on Sunday. But it was so hot for Mommy that he went down to the store, Peter Ernst, and he got a fan. And he took it home. And Aunt Louisa was our watcher, our babysitter.
Yeah.
And Becky was born that day. Oh, it was hot. Charlotte, Charlotte, the little house there in Midori where the Eastons used to live, Dixie Easton. Cheryl, I don't remember Cheryl. Who was next?
Jim.
Jim was an aggravation. Jim, he would sneak, and we had a grapevine down by the creek, and we could get on that vine and swing across that deep ditch. And he told me I was not going to do this. He was there first. I said, you wasn't there. But I said, if you do, go before me. I said, you're going to reap. So he just went ahead like nothing, you know. He had his own way. And when he come across there, I grabbed his leg and I pulled him off that grapevine. And Jim broke his arm. Bless his heart.
Okay, so
the what else happened after? Daddy's leg got burned. We were burning old weeds and stuff. Well, Mommy always took, and she had old rags, and that's the only way you could fight the mosquitoes. So she'd light the mosquitoes. But that day, Dad didn't let her light it. But Daddy said that he went over to the fire and he got his sock on fire. And he said that he had to be off work. Not because of workman's comp, because you never got that back then. But and we didn't know, he didn't know what he's going to do for us for Christmas. And so people got busy and they brought us a great big box of fruit and a ham from his work. And Lord, we had a good time with that.
do you guys remember that? How many of you remember that stuff?
I remember the leg getting hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about home? Anybody else think of a different place when you think of home, or is that what you all kind of remember as your home place?
No, I don't remember
No, I don't remember that place at all.
No, really?
Just
I
us
wasn't
old,
born.
Yeah.
just us old timers.
Yeah.
I remember in Medora behind the chicken place, the senior citizen home
Eggs.
now. But
The eggs.
yeah, there used to be eggs and stuff they sold there. We had a house back there, and it was Grandpa McClintock, Grandpa McClintock's house, and
Yeah.
he was real bad off, so we moved in with him because he didn't have a wife, right? I mean, she passed on, and I remember that house because I was just there a lot, you know. And would walk uptown to the store. And I've said this before, but Mom would give me a note, and when I was walking uptown, I'd put that note in my mouth. And when I got to the store, that Harrison woman, Henry Harrison's wife, was working there, and she'd say, "What do you want, Paul? What's your mom want?" Well, spit that out. And I back to her, she'd say, "Go back home, get another note." That's what I had to do, but I remember that house a lot.
Yeah.
I remember Sparksville. Sparksville, the big long house, and it was the biggest mansion in Sparksville because we were so wealthy. It was not a mansion at all, but I remember every room. Remember the staircase going upstairs and how it was all opened up there except for one back room. And then the lower part had the one back room, and that was Mom and Dad's bedroom, and that was just how it was. But, I mean, you know, and we all did sleep, like one of them said, together. I would just go and sleep on the floor. That's why I love the floor. I'd rather sleep on the floor than anywhere, you know. It's good, but we had a house full of love.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. We did.
We didn't wear fancy clothes and stuff. Matter of fact, the first pair of store-bought clothes that wasn't hand-me-downs from brother that I remember was Susie brought my school clothes for the first grade. And I can remember being all dressed up and how wonderful that was. And I got to school and it was a nightmare.
You could really strut.
Yes, I did, sister. And I grabbed Ann Scarborough and I gave her a big kiss on the cheek and the teacher slapped me upside the face. That's what happened in our day, guys. You got smacked, not by the girl, by the teacher.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Everybody was telling me your brother, the teacher slapped your brother, and I was like, well, okay. So outside at recess, I went and asked Denny. He was playing. I said, Denny, what happened? And he said, oh, I kissed a girl and the teacher slapped me. Don't kiss no more girls.
But I remember Sparksville and how it was, and the Walton family had nothing on us. We had our long table, the chairs, and we ate beans and potatoes constantly. But Sunday afternoons was always fried chicken, cherry or apple pies or stuff. And when you went outside and went into the cellar, I can remember just jars and jars full of canned food.
Yes.
And Mom and the girls, the mom canned stuff, and the girls and us, we all picked stuff for it. And
Were there any apples? I have a question if anyone ever stole an apple.
no, I don't ever
I wonder
remember
where
an
you got that
apple.
question from.
Huh?
I wonder where she got that question from.
Oh, I know.
There was an anonymous
Where did she get it from?
Turn Tom.
Did they steal an apple?
No, I did.
You did.
Yeah. On old Jack a Hook, wasn't that his name? Mr. and Mrs. Hook. And I went up there. We played on the hills. We just act like we had a home, and we just played like that. Well, on Mr. Hook's land, I went over and picked one of them apples, and it was so good. I took it and I ate it. Ooh, I got the diarrhea. And then I had to go and apologize for him because I stole it. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, no,
Oh, you got something?
oh yeah.
Okay.
I remember the houses at Haley'sburg. Me too.
Okay.
I remember being upstairs. If Cheryl Ann was here, we would get her on this, but we went upstairs to bed, and I was little. I was 4, 5, 6 before we moved into Parsonage. And we would go upstairs, and Cheryl Ann would say, now, Teresa Joe, if you wet this bed, you are never sleeping with us girls again. And there we would be, Becky, Charlotte, me, and Cheryl, in one bed. Don't you dare wet this bed. I think I stayed awake all night trying not to wet the bed.
Yeah.
I remember my first memory is in that big old 2-story house that's right down from the church there in Haley'sburg. And I walked out on that front porch, and there was a big, huge cow that had gotten out and was standing in our yard with his head right on that porch. Like, scared me to death. And the chickens used to chase us. But I remember the parsonage the parsonage was fancy to us.
Yeah.
It had a coal oil stove. I remember that. And Dad would turn it on and it'd get hot and then you had to turn it down. And that's the first indoor bathroom that we ever had. With the,
Yes.
We had a tub. We could take baths. My dad said, who in the world would build a house with the place where you go to the bathroom at is right next to the kitchen where you eat at? Yeah, he did that.
You didn't want to have to clean it up.
That place was magical when I was in high school. That was my refuge. I remember there was a dough board that we would pull out to make noodles on, and I would pull that out and put it across the recliner and sit up there and do my homework after Mom and Dad went to bed. And I thought I was something. I ain't kidding you. They let me stay up after they went to bed. Another memory I have in that house is a certain man came to see my sister, and I wanted to know what they was doing, what they were up to. And I knew if I went out there to find out what they was up to, I would get a troll doll. Because Tom always come with the troll doll to buy me off to go back inside. And they were talking, another thing that happened at the parsonage was everybody came to church. Everybody. And we would have Sunday school, and then Cheryl and Susie would leave and go over to the parsonage to fry chicken and make dinner. And when we got out, dinner was ready when church was over. And I remember that they did that. Well, it was a cloudy, cold, foggy kind of day, and they went out to smoke a cigarette because they had worked in the kitchen, and that car was all fogged up, and Dad got a cigarette from George, I think. And George walked over to Daddy walked over to that car, and he hit that window, and he said, "Hey, can I get a light?" And they rolled that window down, and there stood Daddy with the cigarette, and they like to die. That's the kind of dad we had. He wasn't afraid to pull a joke or something on you. But that's what I remember Haley'sburg.
You had it on the floor, it was made, and Wanda and Robert was there,
Cheryl, my lap.
and we was upstairs.
It's okay.
That's all right.
It's all right.
It's all right. I cried too.
Good
Well, it's not.
memory.
Anyhow, George Lee pulled up outside in that red car, and
Here's some of my lap now, my feel warmer.
that Mike was born.
You okay?
Just remember us
Okay.
being together that we was all laid down. And George just read that car up until some lights come on, and then he hollered and said, "Got a baby boy." And Cheryl was still in the hospital, but I remember that in that house.
Yeah.
I remember the big old temple house. That was my favorite one. Bobby and I asked, could we please buy this place? We wanted to live there later years, but we couldn't get it. And the professor and his wife own it now and have owned it for years, and they still wouldn't sell it. They wouldn't sell it to no one, even now. And I go by on Sunday and I look at that old house, and all the vines have grown over, and I think of all the happiness that I had. It was like Little House on the Prairie, and it was like Teresa said when we went to the parsonage and moved there. It was just so beautiful to all of us. But what was different to me was that I loved the old house, and I loved Christmas there, and Chubby and Denny. I think when Paul went up the hill, and I still send him a picture of a Christmas tree every year. Mommy said, "Don't you come back unless you have a tree." And I said, "It has to be as tall as these ceilings." And the ceilings were so tall, and he was just a little boy. And what happened, Denny? The story gets a little mixed, but I waited, and it was finally dark. I had all the floors mopped. I had the tablecloth on the dining room table for Santa to bring this tree. And finally it was dark, and here came who? You or Paul? I always thought it was Paul.
Paul. Yeah, I was still with the tree.
And I said Christmas and left Chubby on the mountain. I mean, Denny on the mountain. He didn't come down from getting the tree. But anyway, we had these great big Christmas balls, and that was such a beautiful treat. And when I got married, Bobby bought me great big round lights, just like that we had in that house. And so I had those lights a long time, and now Vanessa, she's got them, some of them, and likes them of her own. But the house at Haley'sburg, we didn't have heat, only wood, and we went and cut. When I get in from school, Daddy would say, "Docky, you want to go tonight?" And I'd say, "Yes, I do. Just a minute." And I'd get my coat, and he'd say, "Don't forget your gloves now." I'd put my gloves on, and we'd go get in his old truck where he built a fire inside that truck. He put hot ashes tray in the bottom of that truck to keep us warm, and that's the truth. And so the next night, we made a good showing of wood, and then the next night, I was ready to go, waiting for him, and he turned around and he said, "You know, Docky, Mommy and me talked today. It's snowing, it's blistering cold out there." And he said, he always had the kindest heart, and he said, "You just stay here, and I'll just go and do this tonight." And I said, "No, I want to go." And he said, "We talked it over, and we're just going to keep you here tonight, and I'll go." Well, in the meantime, I ran around the truck and hid. And then when it was time to go, he was getting ready in the truck. I pulled that door open and jumped up in, and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I want to help you. I want to help you, Daddy." And he said, "Okay." And so we went, and I'll never forget it. He said, "Now, we're not stacking these." We got back to the old house, and I said, "Well, we need to get it off the truck." And he said, "Yes." So we just threw it off. And I said, "I can stack it for you." And I started to put one. And he said, "No, you don't know how to stack, and you're causing me more work." I said, "Okay, that's okay." But he said, "I appreciate you going, Docky." But I love that. It was snowing, just snowing. There we were in that old truck coming home. And I got a thing, one of the girls got me. It's got the old green truck. It's a 10-piece. I got it about a couple of years ago, but I just love it. But what I really, really remember in that in the old house is I worked at Emmy Wheeler's store up the road, Underwood, and on the mornings I walked. I became a Christian. I was 14, and walking up there, I prayed that God would not let a bear come out and get me, because back then it was woods on both sides, and all that was there was the road, and I was walking, and I'd start singing, and before I knew it, I'd be at Emmy's. And then I'd come home, and I would tell Mommy, I made $10, and she said, "Oh, Docky, you work so long." And I said, "It's good, I love it." You see a lot of people. And so anyway, I'd always say, "Now here," and Emmy would let me shop then, $10 worth. And I would get the lunch meat, the cheese, the loaf of bread, and I would get chips, and I would get pop, and I would get a box of cereal. And take that home, and I'd set out on the table for her. And she said, "Oh, Docky, you don't need to do this." I said, "Oh, I want to, Mommy. This is our treat now. We get to eat this good stuff, that's bought from the store." But the main thing of all is at night, my dad and Mommy would sit in a chair, be waiting, and we would gather in the living room, and my dad would read the Bible, and then we would have prayer. And they were prayers straight from heaven, and such an impact that had on my life. Sometimes my girls say, "Are you going to read all night, Mom?" Because I love the Bible. I love it. And all of that, you had to read it through, didn't you, Denny? You sure did. And then I just love it. But it's just, I remember walking to church from the house in the snow down to the church. And I remember Sheila Swift coming from Seymour, and that was great because Sheila You know, she was fancy. She had a blue plaid coat, and I didn't have a plaid coat, and it didn't matter to me at all. I had her come down and stay all night with me, and she was so sweet. We sang and sang. She had the most beautiful voice. She married a Nazarene preacher, and her daughter, she studied at IU.
We're not talking about her.
I'm saying she
You're
stayed.
good. You're good.
She stayed at the big house.
Becky was
Sure.
With
Did
us.
you have anything about a house?
Well, she just brought up
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
a memory, and I
I'll
thought
be good.
Sparksville would be my favorite, but I believe she's convinced me.
Oh.
Because I worked for Emmy
Yeah.
and got $2. I didn't know you got $10, sister. $2. And my mom one time, I'll tell you how much fire was in my mom. There ain't nobody run over her kids.
That's right.
Well, another friend of mine that lived across the road from the store, she came down to Emmy's to work. And I had worked there longer. Emmy gave me $2 on Saturday and $2 on Thursday night. She hired her to come down at Carolyn down to her store and work. $5 she got. My mom got wind of it. Emmy put me back in the house doing the dishes and cleaning the house, which Emmy didn't do dishes. Emmy was the best soul you could ever meet. She put me back here cleaning and put Carolyn out in the store. Well, that went on for about a month, and Mom said, well, I just heard that Emmy's paying Carolyn $5. What'd she give you? I told her. Mom went over and we had a phone. Cheryl got us our first phone.
Yeah.
Cheryl got us our first phone. She went over and picked the phone up. She said, Emmy, Becky won't be working for you anymore. And Emmy must have said, why? And she said, well, we heard that you're paying Carolyn $5 and you're only giving Becky $2. And I'm not having my girl taken advantage of. So I didn't get work for Emmy no more. And I was happy with $2. I didn't care.
I cleaned the house too and did supper and
Anyway,
stuff.
you got 10.
And I got 10, yes. Sorry.
All right. Well, what about holidays? You have
try to
favorite
make it
holiday
short.
stories?
Yeah.
How did your family celebrate? Like, did you have special things that you did every Christmas we do this, or every 4th of July we do that?
We never failed to not have a Christmas.
That's right.
My mom and dad, from the time I was born, got us a present. It
Yes.
might not have been much. We always had Christmas.
Yes.
Yeah, Mommy loved Christmas.
Yep.
She
We
did.
had fudge, peanut butter, nuts in it. She'd pick out walnuts, her and Susie, and Susie did that for many years, the little walnuts. And so in that house, the big house, we celebrated. We made popcorn balls in the big old house.
No.
That's another thing I love about these stories is that the people that are gone are come back for this moment. You know,
Yeah.
as we're telling the
Yeah.
stories,
Yeah.
they're back, and I like that.
I can tell you a Christmas story.
Okay.
It's kind of a bad on me, but I was in 7th grade or 8th grade, one or the other. And boots were a big thing. I wanted boots. Oh, I wanted boots. And I thought I was sneaky and got underneath the tree and opened that present and seen my boots. I knew which present it was. I was smart. I wasn't going to say nothing, but I wanted them boots. Christmas morning, we're passing out packages, and this goes to Denny, and this goes to Daddy, and I come to that package with them boots in it, and she said, this goes to Albert. And I thought, there's my boots. Why's she giving my boots to my dad? Well, them wasn't my boots, and I didn't get them boots for a whole nother month. Because I had sneaked, and you don't sneak around Jeannie Temple. She found out. Be caught.
So, okay, what about for fun? What did you guys do for fun? Either just playing.
Worked in the garden,
Played badminton. We played badminton a lot.
Yeah.
That's
Danny,
Well,
Baseball
Denny.
on Sunday
he
up at the
got,
up the old school.
Denny would get in the front yard and he'd be go round and around and around, just like an Indian. And he'd come by, woo, woo, woo. and we'd get aggravated at him. And we would look for him, and you couldn't find him after he did that. And then he loved to play Indians.
I loved it so much that when I first got to start mowing the yard, I discovered the wonderfulness of the smell of gas. And gas was amazing. And I would go in the yard and I'd get the mower, and I don't know, how old was I? Probably 5th grade, 4th?
Yeah, 4th.
4th, 5th grade. And I would pour that gas in, and I loved the smell of gas, and I get out there, here's these little clovers, and I'm like, okay, John Wayne, I'm after you. And cowboy, and I'd be going everywhere, and finally, Dad told me one day, said, you can't mow no more. Said, Mom told me, said, you're smelling that gas, ain't you?
Getting high.
Yeah, so I didn't get to mow the yard for a while.
I remember you running around there and saying there was a monster around there. When you were huffing that gas. He swore there was a monster around there, and we'd go around there, nothing around there, Denny, and you'd be convinced there was.
At the Sparksville house, the Christmas, for the playing outside, we played Knock the Tin Can till dark. And she had to yell for us to come in. Remember that, Sherry and Alan and all, Danny and them? Yeah. Played hard. We played hard.
Walk on them
Yes,
railroad tracks.
walk
See
on
who
the
could
rails.
stay on the rails the longest
That's
and go
Do you guys
down.
play together?
That's
I know
true.
some of you are close in age.
Oh,
Did you play
oh,
together? Or?
yeah.
Always, sometimes.
You just
sometimes.
about always.
Christmas time, you always got a set of dishes in a dollhouse with you.
For all of us.
And we're all, we're all, so Mom, we would open the dishes and we got an hour at a time to play with it. Charlotte, Wanda, Cheryl, and we each got an hour. When the hour was over, that was it.
These are from us.
Take one,
Oh
pass
my
it down.
goodness!
This is so pretty.
Oh my goodness!
Oh, my.
Take one.
Show us.
And this one's yours.
You're hanging on to that.
This is
Aw.
Yes, well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very good. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Got a gift.
Better than Candy, she thought of it.
Oh, yeah? That's neat.
This is quite funny about, let me tell them about Christmas at the old house, Sparksville. When Mom and Dad would go to bed, we would sneak in the kitchen, and Becky still remembers this, and sent a card to me one year and wrote about it. Cheryl Ann would always win the games. She would always win, no matter what. She'd work it out, and she won, didn't she, Becky? And we decided that we would come in there and meet after, now this is true, we set it up. We would meet after they were in bed asleep. Then we would go down and we'd go to the kitchen and we'd have a ball and jacks. Well, if those fell on the floor, they made noise. And so that Cheryl Ann, she'd sling them across. I'm coming to get you. And she'd sling them. And we would try our best to get that before her. And you know, one night it went on the floor and she jumped over there on the floor and she got that crazy jack. Yeah, didn't she? And we talk about that yet to this day. She had such strength,
She
you know, in
could
that.
play jacks like
Oh, she
nobody
could.
I see.
And we
Is that where
screamed.
Scully gets his
And we-
athletic
I think
success?
it is.
Yeah, and we screamed. When that went on the floor, we screamed because she was running down, getting that jack just fast she could. We scampered, and she still beat us. Yeah, and they skipped her bed. Girls, what do you do? But we had fun, didn't we? So much fun.
You,
But do
you know what? We couldn't wait till Saturday. Saturday, it was special. We all got a bath, washed our hair.
Yes.
We took a bath in the same water that we washed, you know. And our dinner, our supper, was fried potatoes, sauerkraut, and wieners. And it was them big red ones that you eat nowadays. And pork and beans. Oh, we couldn't wait. We were like a bunch of pigs getting that, because you didn't get meat a whole lot.
Yeah.
You didn't get
Really
meat.
grateful. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm sorry.
All right,
Already
well, how about
forgotten,
less
you know.
fun times? How did your family handle crisis?
We never was told about a crisis.
Okay.
Mom and Daddy didn't discuss their bills or nothing with us. Yeah.
So it always seemed like things were handled and...
They were, and Daddy always paid his tithes. It didn't matter if it was 75 cents. He paid 10% of it. Yeah. And that's the way that we made it through life.
I don't know if this is the same as a crisis, you would call, but I was in the contest playing saxophone, and he didn't know what we were going to do to get me there on time. And so Mommy had bought me a dress to wear. I'll never forget, it was pink and had little rhinestones in it. And I didn't want really the river to get in and get me and get my new dress. He said, I know how to do, Docky. I'll take you right in this truck and we'll go through that river. He went through it. It was deep. It was deep. I remember it scared me, made me nervous, you know. But he said, we'll go straight through. You know, and that's how he solved that. That was a crisis to me. Like, sort of made me nervous after I'd worked and all. But as, like Wanda said, we didn't know anything. He let us be children. They did not control us. They just let us play and have a wonderful life.
Yeah.
About you and Denny.
Is that
What do you think that was a difficult or upsetting time? Like, how did you give each other comfort?
You want to go in, huh? Yancy didn't know this. I don't even know if my kids know it.
No. Are you cold? No.
I'm not
No,
sure.
I'm warm.
But when I believe, and I'll try to tell this close and it's right, I think I was 5 years old, and I got polio. And my leg was a lot shorter than the other one. And so they decided, and Denny, I don't know if he had polio or your ears. Which one was it?
I've had ears, I know, but
Yeah.
I was
So-
told I had polio.
Okay, so they
When they took
decided.
you to Indianapolis,
They decided that there was not a vaccine, as I remember, at that time. But they decided to take us to Indianapolis to Riley's Children's Hospital. And so that was that was really a hard time. But they took us up there and they quarantined us. You talk about quarantine. We was quarantined. And I was in a white bed, and it had no, it quit. It's got.
But we
they
won't
can't-
won't be able to hear on the
Okay,
recording.
now, okay. It had arm posts. It was like a baby bed, but it had arm posts, and then in the middle was a solid metal piece. So me and Denny was in the same room. I was here and Denny was here. Denny was little. I mean, he really was. And they kept us quarantined. Well, Mom and Dad did not have a car. And I'll just put this in there. So Tom Davis in the door, which is Kendra's uncle, he had a nice car, a new car. Him and Boo, they call him Boo, they had a new car. And so Roy seen Dad, and he said, Ab, are you going to go to Indianapolis to see them kids? And Dad said, I don't have any way. They left us. I mean, they had no choice. And so Roy Davis said, Albert, if you want to go, you come down and you get Tom Davis's car, and you go up there and you see those kids. And Roy Davis was a wealthy man. He really was at that time. So Dad goes down and gets Tom Davis's car and came and seen me and Denny and goes back. But while he's gone, Tom Davis gets up out of bed and asked Roy, who was his dad, "Where's my car?" Roy said, "Well, I loaned that to Ab Temple." He said, "Oh my goodness." He had in the back a cooler of beer. They said, if he has a wreck and he's a preacher, and they're going to find beer in his car. So that was, but anyway, we didn't get to see them very much, but they came up and seen us, and they had to have gowns on. I remember if it was yesterday. And I was 5 years old, but I remember it very vividly. And they were in these white outfits, and so me and Denny was in our beds, but they couldn't hold us. So we had comic book and crayon in the bed. So I didn't want Mom and Dad to see me cry. So I would get behind that metal piece and I would tell them that I had been coloring and here's what I colored. And I'd show them. And Denny was just a baby, so it didn't, we had a nurse, her name was Anna. I've been trying to think of that name, but it was Anna. She was a colored lady, great big colored lady. And she took care of Denny. And when Mom and Dad came to get us, Denny didn't want to leave. Because she didn't want to leave, yeah. But it was really a hard time. And I hadn't even thought of telling my kids that. I don't even know that they know it. But I will tell you this. Mom and Dad got to come and get us. I remember, I don't know, Wanda probably took care of all the kids at home. I don't know.
Me and Susie. Me and Susie.
Yeah, you and Susie took care of the kids. But they came to get us and they took us home. And I had to have these brown shoes. They looked like men's work shoes and they were brown. And one of them was built up about like that. And I went to school, and the kids made fun of me because I had those shoes on, you know. And that was a hard time. I was 6 years old. I was in first grade, and I remember they made fun of me, you know. But as the time passed, I had to go to Indianapolis to be checked, and they took me to the doctor. And the doctor measured my legs and checked me and went out, got somebody, come back in. They measured my legs and they said, Mom and Dad was there and they said, this cannot be right because her legs measure the same length. And that's what God healed me. I was crippled. I really was. But God healed me, and Dad told the doctor, well, God healed her, and we know it. So I think that was a crisis in my heart.
I definitely think that was all fine.
I talked about not too long ago,
But what a wonderful miracle to share with us.
Yeah.
We don't know. And so the question was kind of like, how do you handle crisis? It sounds like you handled it through community, by getting support from people that loved and, your neighbor lends the car, you care for each other, your younger siblings, and then prayer.
absolutely.
And then Daddy had cancer, kidney failure. Yeah, at the big house there that they call the Temple House. He laid outside on a cot. And I don't remember much of it. I remember him laying outside because it was summertime and they put him underneath the tree where it was cooler. But I remember Dad telling me years later, I laid out there and prayed and told God, now God, you've given me and Jeannie these kids, and there's no way I can leave her alone to raise them by herself. And I need you to heal me. And he did. I don't remember the circumstances about it or how they found out. I remember about baby's leg because I've been told over and over, but But I don't remember how it came about that Daddy was declared healed. But we know
was
it
in the
was,
hospital.
he was in the hospital.
And the guy come that was going to do the surgery, and I never will forget it. Old Sister Blount,
Yeah.
the woman in the church. It was Vacation Bible School, the end of it. They had the program. And after that was over with, Sister Blount got people to come to the house and pray for him. And I never will forget. She said, if anyone here doesn't believe that God can heal Brother Temple, don't you put your hands together. He said, because I know God can heal me. And when we went to the hospital, me and Bobby, we went to the hospital, and that guy come out and he said, we have examined him, and we find no blood. We find nothing there. He is clear. And God healed him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember them outside praying. It seemed like Kathy was there, and Sister Blount, and Brother Horon, it seemed like was there.
That's exactly right.
And I remember standing in the screen door, because I didn't go out there. They were serious business, you know. And I remember them praying.
Yeah.
Daddy was on that cot and they were praying for him. I remember him laying out there on the cot in the yard, and of course, no air conditioning back then or anything, but it was cool breeze, and I remember staying up all night while he was out there because I was selfish. It was my playtime, and boy, you gals never seen cowboys and Indians play like that.
Amen.
I made me a great big headband and a great big long tail on it out of yucca plants. Tied them together, had my bow and arrow and stuff, and I was out there just playing around in them big trees and shooting them and stuff, you know. And I can remember Dad over there going, "Oh, help me, God."
Yeah.
Pretty sure Mom was out there too when they prayed.
Yeah, and I remember that.
Yeah.
So
It seemed
faith
like
was a big part of your whole
every crisis came together with prayer.
Yeah.
Everything was met with a
So with that being said, did Abergenie either one have like a phrase or a life lesson that they always said, or scripture they always quoted, or
well, Mommy could say well, and it could mean a million things.
Onion rings.
You
I
found
don't know why she done that.
They're yours.
Huh?
Told Tom that
Daddy always said,
Yeah.
help us, God, help us. He never said help.
did they teach you in a formal way, or was this just like they lived their life of faith and you watched?
That's it. We learned from them. We learned by what they're doing, what we needed to do.
And Mommy used to say when it was so hot, "Laws me, laws me." Yeah, I remember that.
You know, Mommy was she was a rebel in her own time. And I remember her telling a story about she got new boots for school, and then they got red boots in at the store. And she took a pencil and worked until her boots come apart. Now, she said other people were not eating, you know, because it was the 30s. And she said, I tore them boots up so Daddy'd get me red ones. And she got red ones. And but they had money because Pap on the Clink was a moonshiner. But she said, I used to walk down the street and them girls knew if they was on my street, they better get off. Because I didn't take guff from nobody. And that was Mommy. And she liked her jewelry. And she said, when I got saved, God made me see that jewelry was an idol. And she didn't wear a ring until we got her that Mother's Day ring. Yeah. But she'd buy me all kinds of rings.
I remember what she used to say, directly.
Directly.
To be there directly.
Yeah.
And I never did know what directly was, but now I know.
Mom was a stuffer. She got in high school. She made an A or a B in Latin. Made an A, and the teacher, Mrs. Pearl something, would not give her the A. She gave her a B on that. And she went into school and she got her down on the desk and held her till she gave her an A on that report card. Mom told me that. Yeah.
She said, "You're gonna give me that A directly."
Yeah.
She, hey,
Her teacher, her old teacher.
she used to like to play cards, and she liked to dance. She told me, she said, we'd play cards, and then the next time they got together, she would do the other one, dance until 4:30 in the morning. But Grandma McClintock made her get up and go to Sunday school and church.
She went out
Yeah.
dancing, but she still had to get up and go to church.
It didn't matter what she'd done the night before.
I
She went to
remember them
church.
old men uptown sitting on the bench when me and Kenneth married, living in Medora. All good. Dodie Newkirk, wasn't it? Was that his name? Dodie Newkirk. He would stop me and he'd say, my, your mom was the most beautiful girl in Medora and she could dance. And I'd be going, I don't want to hear this again.
But we have a tendency to make Mom and Dad here
Yeah.
when they were just plain common people, but their great faith made them there, you know. But they did have a background. People don't know, you know. Daddy was an alcoholic, and he went to revival and come home from revival and sat on the side of the bed and he took one shoe off and he thought, I'm putting these shoes back on. I'm going back to that church. I ain't leaving until I'm saved. So that's the kind of people that they were. They lived their life through faith and they made it. And you need to know though that they were human too. They were human.
He told me he stood outside the church where the Temple's place is. The first Nazarene church, or first church there, was across the road there in an old barn like thing, and they had a church up there. And a woman was a preacher and having a revival, and he said we'd stand outside, me and the other guys, all of us stand outside and be hooping and hollering and yelling, you know, and doing stuff like that, you know, like some of these idiots do today, like preacher brother, you know, trying to interfere with everything. But said they would do that, and
It was
then
built
he
on a
got
rock
saved.
foundation and they would take the rocks out and
Well,
take the church.
he would also have the longest altar call.
Yeah, Dad did.
Your dad
And
did?
we'd just get, us kids, we'd get tired of that, you know. But if we laid down on the seat, oh, you come right up off of there.
Oh, you didn't move in church. Now these kids get up, walk around, go bathroom
The
and all that
adults do
stuff.
too, didn't they?
Mom sat on one end and Dad on the other, and all of these here would stick me by Mom. And every time I'd start to make a little move, Mom would grab my arm and go like that. You straightened right up. You had a respect for the building. That Church of God. You didn't mess around. I remember taking my Spanish book one night to prayer meeting, and we had a big test. And I was left there and I was going through it and looking. All of a sudden, prayer meeting was over, and I grabbed that book and I started up the door, and Dad said it'd never happen again. And I looked, and I went, never again. But I can remember Mom saying, "No, Albert, he had a test. He needed it."
Did you guys
She'd say what?
participate in church? Did you sing or do anything like that, or did you guys just attend churches?
Charlotte played the piano,
Sang
Wanda
with Daddy.
played.
Wanda played.
And I sang with Daddy.
Wanda plays piano?
Cheryl somewhere.
I had no clue you also played the piano. What do you play?
Nothing. I just clean.
She played the trumpet. She played the
You
trumpet.
played trumpet, Becky? Yeah, but yeah, you did. I just clean and cook.
You know, favorite thing I like about Mom and me, we laugh about it all the time. They lived beside us when we was there at the door over in the corner in the little yellow house. And Mom would be over there in the living room, and I'd see her in her chair,
Huh?
watching TV and stuff. And
French horn?
I'd go over there
No,
and I'd
Cheryl
say,
plays
Mom,
French horn.
we're going to go to town
you don't have
sometime this week. Okay. Oh, I'm just so tired. I hurt. There's no way. One time I went over there and I got used to what she'd say next. And I said, Mom, you know, I just hurt and I've been aching and, you know, I tell you what. I said, well, we're going to go up to Wanda's. Oh, well, now I'll just be ready. You know, I could hurt in the car. And she'd do that every time. We're going to go to Seymour. Oh, well, now I'll just hurt in the car and I'll watch people. And she loved to watch people. Just sit in that car and watch. Yeah.
She also, and I've got it at my house, every service, Mommy sat there and took notes. She's got Becky and Tom in that book, and they got Mary. There's all kinds of stuff there, you know. Huh?
You have that?
Yep.
That's cool. That's
And
good.
here's another thing about church at Haleysburg. You didn't want to stand there until, if you saw Emmy Harris start to move, Emmy Underwood, if she started to move, you got your head down or you went on to the altar because she was going to take you there anyhow. Oh, man, she'd get a hold of you and she wouldn't let go. And I remember, I don't remember her name, but she lived up, when you don't go down to Millport, you go on up that road, that knobs, she lived up there, and she would shout till her bobby pins came out of her hair. I do remember that, because when you cleaned the church, you'd find your bobby pins.
As a church cleaner myself, I understand.
It might have been the Rabies.
Hazel Raby.
Hazel Moore.
I didn't know the daughter. What was the
I say
daughter?
Emmy Harris used to
Do you know Becky?
voice stand and testify.
Do you know who
I remember that and
That
Kathy. And
girl
I was up at her house cleaning one day for her. And I said, why,
Minnie.
do you read these
Minnie
books?
Williams.
You know, and I didn't
Huh?
know. And
His
she
sister,
said, yes, I do, Charlotte. And I said, well, where'd you get all these Christian
No,
books?
I
And she
forget.
said, oh, they come from Missouri.
She
I mean, she
never
stayed
did
up
get
on
married.
payments. She's a business lady. She really loved Jesus till she got pretty bad towards the end and didn't come. She couldn't.
We've been at this for about an hour. I don't want to wear anybody out, but I would like to know from each of you, if you're willing to or have something to share, what is something that you feel Ab or Jeannie, either one, taught you that's been like, that you've held on to, that's maybe influenced your life or made a difference for you, a lesson they taught you or something?
Keep going for God. Yeah. Keep going
Stay
for
true to
God.
God. Be faithful to
Yes.
Everything relates to God. Everything.
Yeah.
More like something you would think that would be like a guru, you know, but he didn't. But you couldn't talk about fishing without talking about God. Couldn't talk about getting wood without talking about God, you know, because God related to everything. And as you get older, you realize that's the truth.
Yes.
You know, you think, when I was young, I thought, no, when you go fishing, you're fishing, you know, but Dad would relate it to God, but as you get older, you realize everything does relate to God.
They taught me not to use the map. They taught me to be aware of your surroundings and where you're going. You know, and he would stand me up in the car and we'd drive over to Spraytown or someplace, and then we'd visit over there, and he'd say, okay, Teresa, get us home. And I had to tell him in reverse every turn, you know. And by learning that, by learning to be aware of your surroundings, watch the path that you're on, all of those things relate to God. Be aware of what you're around, be aware of where you're going, keep your path straight, they all relate to God.
I
And
think
he had standards that she went by. After I got married, I really, I don't have to mind anymore. I went up there to Sparksville to do me and Robert's laundry. And I had made a pair of capris. I thought, well, here's my chance to get away with these capris. I went home, and Daddy met me coming up the lane, and he said, "What have you got on?" Oh, I said, "I've got new capris." And he told me, he said, "You go and get your, I don't care if it has to be out of the dirty clothes." He said, "You get that and you get them pants off and don't ever come back wearing another pair of pants." I mean, they were strict.
Wonder what they call pedal pushers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you something else about Susan. Me and Susie, we'd go to school together. And Susie would slip in, go to the bathroom, and she'd change her brown long stockings to bobby socks because the kids made fun of her. And I thought, well, Susie said, "Come on." She wanted to get me in trouble, so she was going to tell on me. And I said, "What?" She said, "Come on in here with me." She said, "We're not going to wear these. We're going to start bringing them to school." But there was some kids there that they couldn't wear them. Nellie Dixon's girls. And don't you know, they went and told Mama. That was the end of our bobby socks.
I think maybe the thing that they taught me, both of them, in their own ways, was, yeah, be true, faithful to God and everything. But I think that they showed me just from their life. There is one person out there that you will connect with, that you will love, and it doesn't matter what happens or what you go through or anything, because God's on your side. And when you find that true love of your heart, you will do anything and take the blame for anything just to protect them. I married the queen of my life, Kendra.
Yeah.
And I treat her like the queen of my life. I get up, I fix the coffee, I'm retired. I want to do things for her, and she treats me like a king.
Yeah, that's right. That's good.
And God blesses that marriage as He did Mom and Dad.
Yeah, good.
And I think that they just taught me really, in the end, after the bull-headed little Indian would listen, which nobody else at this table did not do the same, they taught me that God is the most important thing.
That's right.
Then your family is next. And then your church. And when you put all three of them together, you have got the secret to life.
Yep.
The way God wants it to be.
Yep.
Okay. Well, just to end on a light note, let's go around and hear all your nicknames, because I know you've all got one.
We'll start with Papa.
Wait, what was Susie's? Did Susie have one?
Well, Susie was nicknamed. Her name was Linda Sue.
Okay, so Linda Sue
Termite.
was Susie.
Termite was their nickname.
Termite. Okay.
Termite, remember that?
She won.
Yep.
Yes. All right, I heard that.
What about Jim?
Why?
Jimbo.
Jimbo.
Okay. All right.
Cheryl. Cheryl.
Cheryl.
Tuggy.
Tug, like with a G on the end.
And Charlotte Kay. Now, I'm not being nasty or anything. No, it wasn't. Puss. Hey,
But,
Pussy.
yeah.
We did.
But Docky is the name.
And mine was Myrtle.
Yeah.
Chubby.
Mert.
Paul's is chubby.
Okay. Pete. Okay.
Yeah.
Tricks.
Trix. Okay.
Pink.
Okay.
And yours was what again?
Huh?
Yours was what?
Myrtle.
Mert.
So where did these names come
Dad
from?
done that.
Who
As
knows?
far as I
Make
know,
them up,
as far as I know, Dad and Mom done that, don't you?
I mean,
So there's not. They just came up with it all together.
I think mine came from Mr. Howard up on the hill. What was his name? No, Hamilton. Mr. Hamilton.
Oh, Donna.
Donna Hamilton's husband,
Dale.
Dale, would always call me Tricks, and Dad said that just fits.
Well, I just want to say thank you very much for sharing this with us. I really enjoyed it. I don't know if anybody else did or not, but I thought it was great.
Yeah, it was
Thank you
fun.
very much.
Well, I've never been a star, but
Time to start now.
Have an hour.
Yeah.
We have it for an hour.